Hi, I'm Jessica Taylor from Ink It Up with Jessica, and I'm not always a fan of coloring. I don't usually have the patience to color in detailed images like this, but this stamp set called Layers of Beauty from Stampin' Up has a coordinating set of decorative masks that makes adding colors to the flowers and leaves so easy. In this video, I'm going to share some quick tips for using the masks to color in your image with ink pads and a blending brush. That's right, I used just one blending brush on this card. For this card, I stamped the flowers. You can see it's a clear stamp set in Night of Navy ink on basic white cardstock. I found that the flowers fit perfectly on just a quarter sheet of cardstock, and this is basic white. I found it easiest to stamp, then add the color, and then cut out with the coordinating die cuts. And you can try it however you want, but that's what I found to be the easiest. Okay, now let's move on to some tips for the Layers of Beauty decorative masks. I like to use the glass mat when I'm using blending brushes, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. So I wanted to show you that this is Stampin' Up's glass mat. The full mat is not in my video shot, but it's a really nice size. And it does come with this silicone mat that you can use to hold your ink pads. You can also clean your blending brushes off on this piece right here. Because it's white, it will stain, but it's a really useful tool. And it also comes with this cleaning cloth that you can use to clean the glass mat and your decorative masks. Okay, so once you have your image stamped, I like to put it onto my surface, whether it's a glass mat or just a piece of scratch paper underneath you, with either a temporary adhesive or some Post-it tape. So I'm going to use some Post-it tape right now because that is what I have handy. And just put that over the corners. I want to make sure that I'm not covering any of my image because I am going to be coloring it all. So I'll just get that bottom corner here. I could do all four corners, whatever holds it securely for you. So then we're just going to line up mask number one. The masks have numbers right up in the corner by this little divot, and they are kind of hard to see. So once you can see them, you might want to go over them with a marker, like a Sharpie, so that you can see them more easily. I'm going to start with mask number one. And I am just going to line it up. So I find it easy to line it up on these three flowers. Kind of the little flowers is what I'm looking to make sure is lined up, the little flowers and the little leaves. And then once it's where I want it to be, I'm going to use some more tape to put it in place. So this is just going to hold it where I want it. Now you can use this notch and make a little mark here so that the next masks are easier to line up. It doesn't work super well on the glass mat because if you touch that, it's going to smear. But if you're using paper underneath, then that's a really good tip. I'm going to start with Balmy Blue ink. I like to start with the lightest ink, and this is going to color kind of all of the flowers. Now for this card, I decided to color the leaves the same size as the flowers. You might want to use more colors if you want your leaves to be green or a different color than your flowers. So I'm just going to use my blending brush and tap it, rub it, however you like to do it, to pick up some ink. And then because it starts heavy, I like to just kind of go off on my glass mat to get a little bit off. And then I'm going to rub in circles to add it over my mask. So this is just going to add an all over light blue color. Then I can come back here and pick up some more of that. And this is why I like the glass mat, because if you do this on paper, the paper is just going to suck up that ink and it's done. You can't use it anymore. But with the glass mat, I can just keep picking it up and reusing it. So you can make this as dark or as light as you would like. But I think that looks pretty good for this one. So that's mask number one. I'm going to take off my Post-it note tape. And then I'm going to show you how to clean these at the end. But when I'm doing it myself, I usually clean them right away. Now I'm going to skip to mask number 4 because I'm going to use the same color. You can see that I can line up my little divot, but I'm still going to look and make sure that I have it lined up with my leaves. And then I'll put my Post-it tape back on here. And then add a little bit more color. And then I'm just kind of getting the excess off of my glass mat, but then picking it up again so that I can use it. It's a great way to save on ink. Maybe not save on ink, not waste ink. How about that? Okay, so those light blue leaves look really good. So I'll take that off. Then I'm going to move to a slightly darker blue, boho blue. And I'm going to use this with mask number 2. Line up that little triangle. And then also make sure that I'm lining it up with my little flowers, I think works the best. And then I'll put my Post-it tape back on the corners. I am just using the same brush, the blending brush, because I'm using shades of blue. So it doesn't really matter if they mix. And then I'll just go over that. So we're adding a little bit darker color to shade in the flowers. And make sure you're getting even the little tiniest ones. Take off the Post-it tape. And then we're going to move on to mask number 5. So this is going to do the leaves. So I'm lining up that notch, but then I'm making sure that the mask is lined up with the leaves. The notch is just kind of a quick and easy way to make sure you have your mask the right direction. I keep moving this. Okay. Tape that down. And then we'll add a little more color. I almost feel like this mask is a tiny bit off, but it's going to be okay. Just like any supply, you're going to want to play around with this, and you'll come up with your own tips and tricks for what works easiest for you. Okay, now we'll take the Post-it tape off. And I'm going to move to my final shade of blue, Misty Moonlight. This is a darker, not quite as dark as the Night of Navy that I stamped with, but it is a darker blue. I'm going to use mask number 3, line it up with my little divot, and then I'm kind of just making sure it's lined up in the middle of the small flowers before I add my Post-it tape. Again, just using the same brush because, again, and this one won't take as much ink because there's not as much that you're coloring in. It's just the details, kind of the fine detail shading. Again, you can go as light or as dark as you want with each of these. Take off the Post-it tape. And look how easy it was to add color to those flowers. Isn't that fantastic? So now I would use the coordinating die to die cut this out. And I put this on an embossed white background to make the flowers really pop. Okay, now let's talk about cleanup. To clean the masks, I lay mine flat down and just gently wipe with either this gray cleaning cloth that comes with the glass mat or with my Simply Chamois, and just make sure it's wet. So then I'm just going to wipe off as much ink as I can with this. And you want to be very careful because some of these little pieces are really delicate, so you don't want to bend them. And that's why I find it easiest to lay my mask flat and just gently wipe over it. You also kind of want to go in the same direction. If I go against this, it's more likely that I'm going to push it up and bend it. So once I have gotten a lot of the ink off, then I just take a paper towel and kind of gently go over it to dry it so that I can stack my masks back up and put them away. So I would just go through and do that with each of my masks. While you are cleaning up, you will also want to make sure your glass mat is clean. So I'm going to wipe off the ink that I used on the side, and then also make sure I mark off the little V I made with my marker. Well, I did use shades of blue, my favorite color, for this card. You can, of course, play around with lots of different color combinations. I hope you'll grab the Layers of Beauty bundle and give the mask a try. I can't wait to see what you come up with.